This particular survey comes a few months after I had made specific requests. I'm not taking ownership of this project. I'm simply saying, in my own little world, I had persuaded HRT and CRA to come up with a template ahead of 2018 elections of how do we identify the qualities credentials required to serve a local government, with specific reference to Harare. I was persuading them to have a template that creates fit-for-purpose individuals who are fit for the mandate, big mandate at Harare. It was a request that we need to find what the job is that needs to be done. First and foremost, not to be driven by who wants to do the job. So this launch, in my view, is in partial fulfillment of that request. We may be running late and running into the risk that we may be in election mode, which is what I hope to avoid if we had similar things or similar findings last year. But certainly it's not too late for 2018. If this survey is to be worth its cost, the time, the money, your next and most urgent steps must be to present the electoral local government expectations for 2018 in terms of candidates. You still need, in my view, after the survey, among the big things, to prescribe the template, to demand that such template be fulfilled by candidates or their sponsoring political parties. You must demand, as part of favorable electoral expectations, that capacity be top of the electoral process for 2018. The three key aspects from my station of deployment are that capacity, governance, and the authority to function have not excelled. These must be followed on from this particular survey as key deliverables. And it's not exclusive to local government. It combines with our political elders, the members of the legislative houses, in the sense that both MPs and councillors have lost the correct definition of their roles. We really need to revisit and understand who does what. Without correct knowledge of what the job is, we'll always elect individuals who may not fit in. We have square pegs and round holes. You will find an MP running around with a truck fixing potholes without even checking what Zinara is doing with the money, because that's more appealing to the voter. You will find a councillor being more visible attending funerals than exercising oversight. So until we get the jobs done, the job descriptions done, the elections will deliver people who will function in a slightly distorted role from what is expected. For Harare specifically, I found your sample rather too small for our size. I think you worked on 6 wards. They're all largely one-sided, high density. I don't think you covered the mixed zones. I don't think you covered the industrial. I don't think you covered, you definitely didn't cover the low density. I was also disappointed by the low penetration of social media for Harare as a capital. To be told, I think you mentioned 6%. I found it rather low. It's a poor reflection of a capital city, but again, it's probably a reflection of your sample, which was largely low density. But I want to believe even there, the penetration of social media has increased. And going forward, social media is a tool of the trade and must be embraced by candidates. It is no longer possible to have a councillor or a mayor who is divorced from social media. I respond to almost everything that's addressed to the mayor of Harare on my social media within 2 hours, unless I'm tied up in a meeting. Once I'm tagged, I think within 2 hours I respond. I think that's the pace at which we now operate as a country. I also expected that your survey would have forced in or smuggled in certain aspects of either futuristic expectations or yesterday provisions. things like property ownership could have been an aspect where you could have asked your respondents to find out whether that could be a qualifying criterion for someone to be elected as a councillor. We also expect you to interrogate that despite individual competencies, how are your respondents demanding collective competencies? Because when it comes to council, it is no longer about an individual, it's a collective result. In August 2015, I created a lot of enemies when I indicated that at least 1/3 of the councillors in Harare must present credentials in business, academia, law, or such other professions. I also went on to indicate that if the electoral process did not deliver such competence by way of at least 1/3, modalities must be found to accommodate such skills. I think last term of council, the chairman of the finance committee had 3 O-levels. Now you are asking someone to supervise $400 million on the strength of 3 O-levels. So I know it was not well received, but I have no hesitation in repeating it. I did not say professors, I did not say PhDs. I said a minimum of 1/3 with certain credentials. The electoral process must deliver, failing which other modalities must prescribe such inclusion. I would say, like the chairman of the finance committee for the city of Harare must at the very minimum be a registered public accountant. Whether it's a chartered secretary, ACA, CA, CFA, that is the minimum for the job. So those who consume your survey must also be interrogating that. Again, we also have a problem in actually understanding who does what. Even in council, I don't think every councillor knows what the mayor is entitled to do, what he can do or can't do. It's almost like when things go wrong, maybe it's the mayor, or things don't move, mayor should have done this. But the mayor tries to do 1 or 2 things, you probably be told, no, you're exceeding your limits. We actually don't know who does what and how do we measure them. So our performance attribution is poor because we are not exactly competent to judge. I would say all your respondents evaluating the mayors are likely to be less informed about the role of mayors than councillors. So I would, to a large extent, discount that evaluation, not just because we scored lowly. I would simply say there just is not enough capacity. Because even globally, there are people who on social media, when they analyze the mayor of Harare, the mayor of Mashingo, the mayor of Blawa, they are comparing with the mayor of Joburg. They are comparing with the mayor of London. We've got very different jurisdictions, we've got different legal or political authority. I would say from your sample as well, all the mayors, all the cities that you evaluated, in my view, they occupy stations that are busier and bigger than an average MP. Okay. Just by the very size of their activities. Okay, I'll use my own station. I'm busier than almost every MP. I'm busier than maybe 90% of the ministers. Okay. Politically, we're at a lower rank, but in terms of actual functionality, I work 8 days a week. Okay. I speak to some constituency, questions of some sort 3-4 times a day. You can have an MP who can serve 5 years, you don't even know his name. He never speaks in the House of Parliament, he's never called to account. He never makes news headlines, good or bad. Okay. My colleague Mayor Mashingo may also support me on this one. We carry executive expectations out of non-executive offices. And surprisingly, the people who should be managing, and again, Honorable Wandera is here, the people who should be managing that relationship, like legislators and ministers, when it comes to getting things done or wanting things done, they are among the people who demand executive outcomes from a non-executive mayor. When a minister comes to your office and wants something done, they fail to realize that, excuse me, this one has to go through a committee, this one is going to do this. So they expect a yes or no answer. They expect you to deliver. Very much the residents. The resident associations are a little more informed because they live this relationship, they understand it, they know where. But the actual residents can say, Mayor, I want this done. Move 10 garbage compactors from Mavuku, they must go to Mbari. They think the mayor will pick up the phone and say, 10 drivers go that way. Fix a bigger problem there, it's just not there. Moving on, I would also say size matters. The chairman of a committee in Harare is as big in terms of responsibility as the mayor of a smaller town or city. The chairman of Harare City's Human Resources Committee is supervising close to 8,000 employees. He is bigger than the mayor of a city that's got 200 workers. So we need to right size our understanding of these roles. I've also mentioned the issue of MPs and mayors. In terms of the elections, one of the things that we seem to miss, and I think, Doctor, you mentioned this, you picked this on this, the preparedness for mayors is simply non-existent. I'm a makeshift mayor. My bosses are here, my SG here. I'm a makeshift mayor. In terms of preparedness, my party was prepared to field a mayor in the Muchmasunda model, where we're getting a mayor from outside of the elected councillors. We have dominated local government election results. We should be a year ahead of the elections in terms of preparedness. Right now, I would say to Mr. Monzora here, they should know who the next mayor is. I should be working hand in glove with that individual for the remaining months of my time, so that when he or she steps in, he hits the ground running. It must never be an accident that come elections, after elections, now running around, scurrying around who is going to be mayor. So the preparedness is simply not there. I would also say, by the virtue of the size of the portfolio, we seem to forget that some of our capacity resides among our legislators. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Honorable Mwandera leaving Parliament to come and serve as a councillor and to serve as mayor. Overseas, I was at a conference where there were 5 mayors. Of the 5 that were sitting there, only myself and a lady, were not former mayors, were not former ministers. I think the other one was mayor of Montreal, I think David Kode, and the mayor of Ethiopia. One was former minister of transport, one was former minister of finance, and I don't know who the third one. It is quite competent, quite fulfilling, quite appropriate that some of our competencies that were deployed to the House of Assembly, House of Senate, or to Cabinet can be deployed to serve as mayors by the sheer volume of work, by the size of that particular assignment. So as we evaluate our electoral process for 2018, let's look at that. The essence is functionality, authority, and responsibility. I have no particular preference on the election of mayor, whether it should be direct or indirect. We are currently serving as mayors on an indirect election. We draw our mandate from our colleagues in council, who draw their mandates directly from the voters. I have a slight problem though, or can I call it a warning, that the job of mayor is probably the only job that mixes your business, your community, and your politics into one assignment that requires equilibrium or balance of those areas. If you push it closer to voting, closer to direct campaigning, you are taking it closer to slogans. You are taking it closer to politicians. You are looking for a civic leader. The style and the template of a mayor is somewhat straitjacket. It's not out politician. It's a mixture of politics, business, and community. If you force your mayor to go around 46 wards making slogans, campaigning, you will be a politician more than a businessman, more than a community person. The equilibrium will be lost. These jobs require so much balance that sometimes these mayors are in a dilemma. If they try and do certain things, the electorate will think they are politicking. If they try to do certain things, their political masters will think they are selling out. Because the balance is delicate. The balance required in a mayoral office is very different from a ministerial office or from an MP seat of government, or seat of election. So I would still favor an indirect election, because it also allows you to refine it a little bit from among your candidates. More so, if processes such as these that you are undertaking deliver generally a higher caliber of councillors, then you cherry pick from those. I think I'll be in favor of this particular model that is in play right now. I'm as sensitive and as alive to where I draw my eventual mandate from, even though I come from an indirect mandate. So I don't quite think a direct mandate will give the mayor a greater obligation to serve and to be accountable. Because you may fly away from quality and fall back into the politics of out and out politicians. In terms of full-time, part-time, the very big cities forget. There is no way Harare, Bulawayo, and Chitungwiza can consider their mayors part-time. Like I said, I work 8 days a week. My family has accepted that I got that duty for 5 years. And I've packed everything aside in order to serve. Otherwise, it will simply not deliver. Even with that 8 days a week, I still struggle to balance personal, family, council, party, social, church, golf. They still will not fit in. So it's still such a high demand job in terms of time. So particularly for those three, Bulawayo, Harare, and Chitungwiza, you have no choice. Those jobs are full-time. We're not talking about money or remuneration. We're simply saying the demands of those jobs are full-time. Okay. Separation of elections. Separation of elections, I think, is good in that it may give the local government elections the priority, the attention that it now has been failing to get. We are overshadowed by presidential elections. We are overshadowed by parliamentary elections. But local government is where the work happens, is where the delivery is. It is where you should pack your best brains. The most committed public elected officials should go into local government. So it will raise the profile, and I also think we may deal with one aspect which legislators may be aware of. The vacuum, I think, that's generally created between one council and the next. I favor a direct handover, takeover of one code of council to the next. This idea that you have 3, 4, 5, 6 months of a gap where when there's no elected component, where sometimes they put in a commission, that mustn't work. That should not be allowed. The things that happen under commissions are things that have been denied space by the elected. I think the handover must be visible. There must be no gap between one mayor to the next, one set of councillors to the next. We must have a complete handover, an effective handover. We don't want interim commissions. Cooling off period, I think if you give the separation between local government and parliamentary elections, you have a cooling off period, in which case you can actually size up your candidates. Some good candidates who may not have made it to parliament can be persuaded to come and serve as councillors, to come and serve as mayors. My last remark is, who will read this survey and what are they going to do with it? If this thing is going to end up in this room with no actionable results or projects, we have wasted time. Let's refine the outcome, let's capture the discussions that will take place here and use them into 2018. It's not too late. We have a new minister. He must be engaged on the things that are coming. There's no real dominant party position here. This is Zimbabwe's residents in one big room. If we've got outcomes that we can share to refine local government elections, local government functionality, let's use this survey to present our demands to the new Minister of Local Government, Public Works and National Housing. Thank you very much.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.